Mahalo, everyone, for being here. I am Kumu Kawika Foster, and this is Kukakuka TalkStory. We do it every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And today we are talking about true forgiveness and ancestral healing. So once again, I want to thank you for being here, and let's get into it. When we speak of forgiveness in Ho'oponopono, we mean complete forgiveness. And it's a part of the cycles of forgiveness that we speak of in Ho'oponopono. So in Ho'oponopono, we talk about forgiving, forgetting, and remembering. So the two components of forgiving and forgetting are very, very important. And that is that in the understanding of our ancestors, to say that you forgive, but you do not forget, means that you don't truly forgive. Yeah. So in this understanding, we bring ourselves to a place where we forgive in its entirety. And this is a process, right? It takes everyone their own time to reach this true forgiveness. And what we are doing in Ho'oponopono is allowing for that space, that sacred space, to have that time, right? So in order to truly forgive, in today's understanding, and in today's reality, it means really going through the entirety of whatever the pilikia, the trouble is, and unearthing the pohaku, right? Bringing the entirety of the pohaku forward, and of course, peeling through the layers of significance and importance to get to the root of the problem. And once that's done, and the pohaku, the trouble is fully present, it's fully fleshed out, and all of what's needed to be shared has been shared about it, then we're brought to, and we're left at a point of forgiving, which also means forgetting, right? So in this talk, right, in this evening's talk, we're talking about true forgiveness and what that looks like, and how we get there, and what we do to achieve it when we've arrived at the pohaku, right? When we have arrived at the problem. So for as many people as there are in the world, yeah, there are the same number of amounts or possibilities or pathways to reaching that true forgiveness. So this is really dependent. Achieving true forgiveness is really dependent upon the individual, is what I'm saying. Yeah. This is how our ancestors understood the ability to truly forgive. In the component of forgetting, right, and coming to that place of true forgiveness, we continually share what forgetting really means, right? And what forgetting really means in today's terms now. I'm going to work backwards in a little bit. But what that means today is sharing, that our ancestors are not requiring of us to pretend like our experiences have never happened. But that, however, and not but, I don't want to negate anything that I'm saying here. However, it does mean that we come to a place where we forget the hurt, the pain, the fear, the anger that those experiences have caused us to pick up. Those are the pohakus, right? This forgetting component is one of the more difficult cycles of forgiveness that we speak of and that we share in the traditional process of Ho'oponopono. And for a very long time, this the component of forgetting has been misunderstood, and or has just outright been ignored, right? What we find a lot of today is people saying, "Oh, well, I can forgive, but I'm never going to forget," and that's in complete conflict with the teachings, the ancestral teachings and understandings of which I've just shared with you, right? The importance from an ancestral perspective of when we forgive, we must also forget. So making that clarity, making that clear, sharing the layers of the cycle of the component of forgetting before doing forgiveness work, right, is really important and significant today. In an older time, right, in the ancient time, this was clearly understood, right? It didn't require any kind of clarification. When you entered into Ho'oponopono, that was already clearly understood. We're coming here, we're entering into Ho'oponopono, we're entering into this process of freeing and clearing and healing, to forget. Right? So that it wasn't an obstacle in that older time. This was a component of the process that was clearly understood, and you entered into it willingly. Right? And it was understood because the only possibility of achieving true forgiveness is understanding the relationship of the three cycles of forgiveness, right? So we forgive in the present. We forgive the hurt, the pain, the fear, the anger, that we've picked up in our past, so that we can forget that hurt, pain, fear, and anger of the past, so that as we move into our future, we're capable of remembering the state of our being, the wholeness of our light, the fullness of our being as we move into our future. And many a times, what that also means, in order to achieve true forgiveness, means taking the individual back to a period of time prior to the experience that caused them to pick up the stone. Right? So in plain terms, what we're talking about is, okay, remembering, the component of remembering is remembering how you were before the experience happened, before the incident took place. Right. So, for example, if we're talking about some sort of sexual abuse, for example, yeah, it's taking that individual back to their being prior to the incident of abuse, right? And we have to really, we call them cycles, right? Because it is a process, yeah, and it's inclusive of that, right? And there's a full circleness to it, yeah. That's why it's important that we describe them as cycles, is because we're coming full circle with it, and we're returning to a place prior to that incident happening, right? Each of these 3 cycles is crucial to arriving at and achieving true forgiveness. Yeah. So in the end, for example, in the ancestral understanding and in ancestral healing, right? Once it's only true forgiveness when it is forgotten, yeah, and you are remembering the fullness and wholeness of your being and the light that you were born with, right? So that's the completeness of my share, yeah, for tonight's topic of discussion. And now I'm open to furthering the discussion with each of you based on your questions or contributions or both. Yeah. So do any of you have any questions at this time? Or contributions or both?
I do, if no one minds me going.
Hi, Kara.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to see you in person.
Yeah, exactly. Nice to put a face to the name.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't worked out how to put the name on my Zoom yet, so I'll work on that. Thank you so much for sharing, as always. So I was wondering, in a session, how it works, as in, is it mostly talking it through, or is it kind of like, do you just sort of do regression? Is it like a kind of form of hypnotherapy? Is it sort of regression back to things that happened, or kind of, can I have a bit more detail about how it works, please?
Sure. Yeah, okay. So this is what Ho'oponopono looks like today and the other day or yesterday, yeah, in an older time, right? So we come together and there is prayers that open us up, that lead us, yeah, into Ho'oponopono, for example. Yeah. And the prayers invite our ancestors, they invite our guardians, they invite our gods and our goddesses, or the higher power, the higher source that we believe in, into the space. Through the prayers and their presence, the sacred confines of the process, for example, of Ho'oponopono is created. Yeah. And once we're inside, it's a sacred dialogue. Yeah. As plainly as I can, get this across. And the Luna Ho'oponopono, yeah, the one in position of orchestrating and conducting the session of Ho'oponopono. Ask clear and direct and non-leading questions to all that are present, to arrive at the pohaku that the family or the individual or the couple is experiencing. So joining us. And how the family answers those questions determines where their session of Ho'oponopono goes, right? So as they're answering the question that needs to be asked, they're going back through the layers, and this is where the Hana, right, that you've heard us speaking about, really takes place, of going through those layers to arrive at the pohaku. And once we're at the pohaku, then there comes a point where we're asking very directly whether or not forgiveness is given or is granted for that pohaku that they brought forward, right? So, and this happens with every single stone that is presented. So they may come, right? The family may come with a set of pohakus that they already have in mind that they need to address and clear up. And then through the questions that are asked by the conductor of Ho'opono, by the Luna Ho'oponopono, right? Then those stones are fully revealed in its entirety, and possibly other stones that reside within the family that were not clearly identified or brought forward intentionally in the consciousness of the family, right? But either way, the stones that come forward, now we work through the cycles of forgiving, forgetting, and then remembering, so that true forgiveness is achieved and the pohaku is no longer there. And this is done by every single participant in Ho'oponopono that comes to engage in Ho'oponopono. This is also the reason why there really isn't a time limit, on a session of Ho'oponopono. Is everyone is given the due time and the opportunity and the space within the sacred confines of Ho'oponopono, for example, to share everything that needs to come forward. Then, once it's forgiven and they speak it, right? They speak the words, "I forgive." Then it's free and clear, and then we can either proceed and move on to other stones, or if it's the last and final stone that you're working on and forgiveness is achieved through spoken word, then we can bring the session to a close. So I hope I've clarified some of that for you. Did you have any follow-up or any other contribution?
Aloha.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Aloha, Kara. I just want to add into what Karen is sharing, Kawika is sharing. It's 10 o'clock at night for me, everybody, all right? So just so that everyone knows. What I want to add into it is I make it clear before we even enter into a Ho'oponopono, forgiveness is a must in the process. It is required. There is no if and buts. And many a times what happens is some of the pohakus are so deep that it'll take a timeout for the person to really think about it, you know, and to come to that point of actually forgiving. So the idea is some of these pohakus are so deep that it requires extra prayer, it requires time out, thinking, talking the person through it. Because for some people, forgiving is one of the hardest things. Yeah. But the goal and objective and a result must be, there's no option here, people. It must be forgiven. Yeah, I want to make sure that's very clear with everybody. So my suggestion to people, if you are entering into a Ho'oponopono session and you don't have it within yourself to forgive, then I don't suggest you enter a Ho'oponopono session. Yeah. So, Kara, you're one of those that are coming up with a Ho'oponopono session. So tomorrow, as an example, you'll be receiving an email from me, and I'll be stating some facts that is important for people to pay attention to before entering the session. The idea is you have to be a willing participant to enter the session, all right? It's all discussion, is what it is. And one of the most important points is when it's done, it's done. It is a sacred place, sacred session. Thereafter, once the session is closed, that and everything of the pohakus that was identified, everyone, cannot be in your po'o. It cannot be here. Because if it is here in your po'o, then it means the forgiveness has not taken place. Now, that's something that the participants have to deal with, and I understand that. I can tell you can no longer be here after the class, but I know for a fact it'll linger there for a little while. The point to get across is you can never speak it again, and you have to eventually clear it out from your po'o, from your head. Does that make it and give more context for you, Kara?
Yes, yes, that's really helpful. Thank you. So, like you say, if you're entering into a session, then you are already halfway there in a way, because you're wanting to forgive. But so that's how I feel. I feel like I really want to forgive and I want to move on, but I'm stuck. So I guess you've already got that in. It's about the intention, I suppose, isn't it? So if your intention is that you want to forgive and you want to move on from the situation, then yeah. So what you're saying is, if your intention is good, then it will happen. Basically, with everybody works together to make it happen. That's kind of what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. So the intentions have to be right, yeah, as to why you're entering into a Ho'oponopono. I've dealt with many people that want to learn Ho'oponopono, goes into Ho'oponopono only for the reason of wanting to learn it and do it themselves and charge people for it. That's not a good intention. But I understand, because Kawika and we both teach teachers the process of Ho'oponopono. Yeah, but that's a whole new ball game as far as teaching teachers Ho'oponopono. And you don't do Ho'oponopono with us just because you want to see what the process is so that you can go and sell it later on. Everybody thumbs up if you guys understood what I just said. Yeah. Okay, because many times people come to us for that purpose. Yeah. And we are able to see through people because of that. Yeah. Will we prevent it? No. Because everybody's responsible for their own actions. But I will state to people, if your purpose is here to do that of Ho'oponopono, to teach it and use it, then we require you to actually do that of the Ho'oponopono teacher's class. Okay, so there's a difference in doing a session and doing that of the Ho'oponopono teacher's class. Yeah. So I want to make mention of that also. Mahalo. Any other questions, Kara, at this time?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my intention is definitely because I want to better myself as a person and make peace with myself and and have a good life for me and my family. And I want to have peace within. So that's definitely my intention. Yes, so that answers that question. It's this talking. I've got braver on Clubhouse, but now suddenly I can see you all. My nerves have come up again a little bit. So I wondered also, does it include self-forgiveness, forgiveness of yourself as well? Does it include that? Because I think possibly there's some of that's involved for myself as well, maybe.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's primary, yeah. You cannot forgive someone else if you cannot forgive yourself. Yeah. So absolutely, to your question. Yeah. But that's where, having a Luna Ho'oponopono, the other word they use is Haku, right? So these Hakus or Luna Ho'opono, normally in traditional time, it was the elder, yeah, of the family. And because it was part of the culture, and so it was done, practically every day in the home. And so for this reason, it was an easy process. Today, that's completely different. And it's completely different because we're trying to help people that has no clue or understanding of the culture. And the process of Ho'oponopono. So many a time, people will even ask me the question, so Kumu, all right, so if I don't, what happens if I don't forgive? I say I forgive, but then, later on, after the whole Ponopono, as far as I'm concerned, that's bullshit. I'm not going to forgive that asshole, right? Kind of thing. So here's what I usually tell people before they even ask me that question. I tell people, remember, when we entered into the session, and Kawika stated it very, very clear, who we brought into the session. We're not the one that's going to be watching over your shoulders to make sure, right, you do what is right. You make sure that you don't speak of what was discussed in the session. We're not the one that's going to, watch over you and make sure that you keep by the sanctity. But you must pay attention to the fact that we brought in that of the ancestors, that of the guardians, that of the higher being. That's who you're going to have to respond to, not us. Everybody follow us? Thumbs up? You understand what I'm saying, everybody? Okay, and that needs to be stated very, very clearly. Yeah, and in the whole Ponopono session, that's something I bring up all the time and just remind people, hell, I'm not going to be following you all over the place to make sure that you don't bring the subject up again. That's not going to happen. But you have that of a kuleana, a responsibility to who we brought into the session. Yeah, that's why we bring them into the session, everyone, because it's not just physically, it's mentally as well as spiritually, as far as the process. Any further question? Tara?
No, that's been brilliant. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to add to my reasons for doing it as well. Mostly it's personal, obviously, but also I qualified as a Reiki healer about 6 or 7 years ago, but I've not wanted to, I haven't actually practiced at all, other than family and friends sometimes, but I because I don't want to, I want to make sure that I really can help other people, and I want to be the best version of myself before I try and help other people. So, and I've done a lot of work, and I feel like I'm not going to say, I don't mean imperfection in any way, but as in feeling, you know, like I'm quite close to being, I think, I just want, you know, that energy to better flow so I can really help other people in a pure way. I know you talked about this in the Lomi Lomi sessions. So, so another reason is because I feel the calling. The calling is for me. I want to set up my business and start helping other people, but I want to make sure that these stones, or certainly the main stones that might be getting in the way, I want to be gone, so that I really can help other people in a pure way and just do a really good job. So that's another intention as well. So, but no, I'll let other people speak now. But thank you so much. You know, I love these sessions, and you've been so helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's why we do what we do, especially Kawika. You notice that's Kawika's main topic on Clubhouse. Yeah, is Ho'oponopono, or modality healing, right? And that's because the point is, we know there are a lot of people out there that's doing healing work, but yet they're not pono. Yeah. And they've never ever done the process of Ho'oponopono. And the mantra of Ho'oponopono, right? I have hundreds, if not thousands of people that come into a discussion with me because that's what they learned. And for me, that's not traditional Hawaiian. Yeah, that's the thing. But I always say to them, well, if it's working for you, then by all means. But what usually happens is they normally come into our class, and then they get doubts as to whether it really worked or not for them. Yeah. So that, in my mind, what you just shared is a great idea. Yeah. If you're going to do the work, any kind of healing work, all right, Ho'oponopono is something that you need to do on a personal basis with that of a Luna Ho'oponopono, and also learn it so you can, before you even do that of your body work, you do a Ho'oponopono session. You know, in Hawaiian tradition, everybody, in Hawaiian tradition is, before a child, when the mom, right, is about to go into labor, the families are called together. A Ho'oponopono is done immediately, right then and there, before that mom goes into major labor, all right? And why is that? Ho'oponopono clears the way spiritually, mentally, and physically, not only for the mom, but for the child that is about to enter this world. You know? So Ho'oponopono, but you must understand, everybody, it is in all parts of our life, in our culture, in, you know, as far as the way that things were done. In healing, Ho'oponopono before you do your healing. Yeah. And the Ho'oponopono is with the person that's going to lie down on that table as well. Yeah. All of that. It's just a process that takes place, everybody, in everything that we do. Yeah. Before we do huakai, like with my students, I do a retreat where they come here to Molokai. And when they get here, not on the first day, because the first day is for check-in and people to get acclimated to the place. But the very next morning, that's one of the first things we do with the group as a whole. We do the process of protocol. We do that of Ho'oponopono. We do that of Kapukai, the cleansing, and we do that of the Ava ceremony, which is the connection with that of, you know, the spiritual realm. That process has to take place. You know? So even in our work, we do that also. Okay. Mahalo.
And mahalo. So, hey, look, the other day really came to that point of just before I was about to move into a Ho'oponopono session, sharing with the individual that, that there are consequences for speaking about the stones that are released and forgiven in Ho'oponopono, speaking about them or bringing them back up after the session is complete. And this individual had a really serious reaction to that. And it triggered many different layers of her, of how, how this person was brought up, the kind of the religious context and facets that they were raised with. And it was a really big triggering thing that we had to actually move through, before being able to enter into the session of Ho'oponopono. The idea that that there was going to be consequences for that individual talking about those things that have happened in their lives after a session was very confrontational for her, for this person. I keep saying her, but anyway, for this individual. So, speaking about sharing and sharing once again the understanding that when we move into this kind of spiritual work, that we are right from the beginning requesting the presence of the higher power, of our gods, of our goddesses, of our guardians and our ancestors to be with us. So, this bringing that point to light, right, was really assisted this person in being able to willingly agree to step into a Ho'oponopono session. So, and of course, there was a multitude of layers of, really making it clear that this is, and the reason that was such a big deal is it demonstrates how far we've come in the understanding of healing and spirituality of our ancestors, and not just our ancestors as Hawaiian ancestors or our lineage, right? I'm talking about all of our ancestors and the understandings of their way of life and their way of knowing in this universe. That willingness has to come first to even be able to engage in Ho'oponopono, of letting it go. And this is why tonight's topic is true forgiveness. The point is, after a Ho'oponopono session, you don't talk about it again. That's the point. The point is that there's nothing more to talk about it. It's all been out. It's all come forward. The Pohaku is presented. The Pohaku is forgiven, and then it's gone. Bringing people to that understanding, especially today, is a whole journey. It's a whole journey just to be able to do it, to get into Ho'oponopono, to come to that understanding. It's really it's simple, but it's so difficult to achieve for many people today because of how complicated it's become and because of how far away we've moved from the original understanding of our ancestors and how true healing actually works and how true forgiveness is achieved. So just wanted to share that part of the component. Any other questions, contributions from anyone else? Don't be shy.
If no one
So
else
I
is going to
have
speak, I have got another
Oh,
one.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I
Sarah.
thought I'd wait because I don't want to be greedy, but no one else is saying anything, so I thought I have got another question. So I will be a bit greedy. Sorry. I just wondered about on what you're saying about not speaking of it again. What about in the context? Because if you're going to be someone like myself, I want to be a healer and help people with spiritual guidance and that sort of thing. Can you share in the context of, because sharing experiences helps other people, and you can understand, they shows other people you understand them, that sort of thing. So do you literally mean it can never ever be said again, or never said in the context of, do you know what I mean? Like, can you share to help someone else, or is it totally off limits? That's what I wanted to ask, really.
Yeah, ancient speaking, really directly, no. It's done. Yeah. And actually, okay, and I'm gonna go take it. I'm gonna go there with you. Okay, with all of you. Yeah. Again, this speaks to how far we've come from the ancient ancestral understanding of healing and true forgiveness and living a life that is in alignment, living a life that is aloha, living a life that is pono, right? There was no need to talk about any of the pilikia, any of the trouble, any of the hurtful, traumatic experiences of the past. Not for somebody else's benefit, not because somebody could maybe learn to become enlightened from it. No, this is the huge difference in the way of thinking and the way of living of our ancestors. Nothing healing, nothing progressive, nothing powerful, nothing of that nature comes from talking about trauma or the shit that we're experienced in life. And this is another one of the big reasons why there's such a difference today between traditional ancestral healing and modern modalities of therapy and healing practice. We don't give credit to the pohaku. We don't give credit to the anger. We don't give credit to the fear or the hate. Yeah, we give credit for healing when healing is achieved to our ancestors. We give credit, we give healing, we give remembrance to aloha, to pono, because that is what actually is giving us the ability to achieve healing and forgiveness. Not the anger, not the rape, not the defilement. Yeah. And so this is a completely different understanding from today. Right? What we hear a lot of today in modern and new modern therapies or new age practices, yeah, is we really have to share the trauma. We really have to explore the anger. Yeah. And then after healing is achieved in these ways, then they turn around and they say, anger is a good thing. Yeah. Or more importantly, they'll turn around and they'll say, oh, I would have never been able to be who I am if it wasn't for my anger. I would never be able to be who I am if it wasn't for my trauma. No, that's incorrect thinking in the understanding of our ancient ancestors. Yeah. We got to remember what the Pohakas are intended there to do. The Pohakas aren't there to assist us in being able to love more. No, their purpose, their reason is to prevent us from loving in the first place. So it's completely a different form of understanding and thinking of our ancestors that we're describing right now, and that Lawrence and I have been describing for you all for a number of years now, for some of you. So in an ancient time, no, there wasn't anything more to talk about it. It happened. We recognize it. We saw it. We identified it. We brought it fully present and into the light through Ho'oponopono. And then we let it go. We forgave, we forgot, and we didn't speak about it again because there was nothing there to speak about. It wasn't there anymore. It's not there anymore. You've forgiven. It's gone. So what do we share? As we move forward, the healing. That's what we share. What do we share? We share in the opening of the revived, the rejuvenated relationship. That's what we share. But we totally understand. We totally understand where people are coming from today when it's like, look at me, look at what I survived, and you can survive too, because I did. Very different. And that's all I'm presenting. Yeah. I'm just saying, there's the ancient way. That's how they were doing it. That's the level they were operating at. And this is what we have today.
So here's what I got to share to your question, Karen. What Kawika tells you is true. But many a times, because I've done thousands of these, right, as far as Ho'oponopono session, and I do use certain points in the session as talking points, But so as an example, I will say something like, so this husband and wife enter this session, and we identify only one person speak at a time. And so I always identify the women first. And so the wife was sharing her story. And the husband got absolutely pissed off with what she was saying, to the point that he tried to interrupt her by saying, "You don't know what the fuck you talking about." And I stopped him, and so, he was fidgeting, because he didn't like what the wife was sharing, and so when it was his turn to talk, he just stood up and started gassing the wife, and I told him to sit down. He wouldn't listen. And I said at that moment in time, this session is done. You need to get out the door. So sharing something like that, Kara, as an example, is a possibility. All right. But you're not, number one, you're not identifying, you're not going into the full scope of the session, but you just want to get to a point you know, especially when you're teaching people who wants to learn Ho'oponopono as part of their work, right? You know, so you got to give them some examples. So something like that I'll use as an example. You follow what I'm saying, Kara? Everybody else follow what I'm saying? Thumbs up? Yeah. Okay. So I just kind of throw that in just so that you understand. But I don't suggest in any shape or form, Kara, that you use yourself as the example. Okay. In all possibility, gain some traction, get into some Ho'oponoponos, you know, kind of thing. Get onto a class for that matter, right? So you can really learn it, so you can do it yourself because of the work that you do, right? And then use, you know, your practices as the example. Okay. Any other questions, Kara? And here's the thing, Kara, you're not hogging on the questions, right? Everybody else trying to think for a question. So you're actually asking the questions and they're like, oh yeah, that's a good question. All right.
Mahalo. I must admit, I did go into a bit of a mini panic when you, like that you said about that woman who, I went into a bit of a mini panic about that, because it's only because I'm a natural sharer. I am just terrible for just outpouring with sharings, you know. I just kind of like but I found that I've been, say, certain friends have said to me that they've told me things they've never told anyone else, like or not shared with, like they've had deep, I had a friend recently who had a deep issue. She was on antidepressants and things, and she hadn't told anyone else. And because I just kept sharing all my stuff, she was like, wow, you're really open. Yeah, actually, and then she started sharing with me and things like that. So I kind of like always lived a bit like that. So that's why I went into a bit of a mini panic. I thought, oh my God, you know, like, is this going to work for me? Because I've always lived a bit of a sharer sort of person. But having said that, the particular situation that I'm working on, you know, I'm sure that sort of, like you say, that sort of depth doesn't need to be shared, or I'm sure, yeah. I mean, it's like Kawika was saying about, it's just totally changing your way of thinking. You know, you just live a certain way, you learn a certain way, and it's like I love this Hawaiian spirituality because it's just totally challenged my way of thinking on a lot of things. You know, some of it I totally align with, and some of it I'm like, wow, never seen it like that before, or whatever. So that's one of the reasons I love it so much. So so yeah, it's great from that point of view as well. And yes, I love the idea of learning how to do it, so I can, because like you say, we do continue to pick up the Pohakas, the stones. So
and look, here's the other part. Here's another part that we haven't even gotten to, and that I haven't even heard come up recently either. But I'll bring it up just because we're talking about it, right? We're talking about we're talking about us, the individual, never talking about things, yeah, that are brought forward into a session of Ho'oponopono afterwards, right? We're talking about us. Yeah. Well, we haven't even begun to discuss or to share what happens when the other people that are in your lives bring up the incident that you've forgiven or let go of in a session of Ho'oponopono. Right? So, you know, the multitude of places that need to be, and this is why I'm really appreciating everything that Lawrence has been sharing with you, and in the way that he's been sharing it with you in regards to actually learning how to do Ho'oponopono, right? Is that's an area that really also gets shared and clarified in being able to do Ho'oponopono for others. That question has come up to me several times, yeah, in the history. It's like, okay, well, I'm willing to agree and enter into Ho'oponopono and forgive and forget and boom, never talk about it again. Sure, sign me up. I'm in. Let's go. But what happens if my mom brings it up? Yeah. What happens when, my brother that I've forgiven in Ho'oponopono brings it up? Yeah. And what does that mean for me? Yeah. What does that tell? How do I handle that kind of a situation when it comes up? So, there's a multitudes of layers.
And let me give you the answer, Kara. The answer is, if your parents bring it up, your siblings bring it up, your friends bring it up, this is the way to actually answer it, because it's the truth. The truth is, what I've learned in Ho'oponopono is, I love you. Period. Yeah, period. If you're willing to let it go, of course you love them. Yeah, that's the only driving force, and the most major force, should I say, that allows you to let it go. Without love, people will never let it go. Yeah. I mean, in my book, as an example, ego, as an example, right, is a pohaku. And you know what, Kara, I see you in the same clubhouse rooms that I go to, and one of the things that I hear, ego is necessary. I don't believe in that. Ego is one of the first things we have to get rid of. Yeah. And the only way you're going to get rid of your ego, right, is because you love what you're doing, or you love what you've learned, right? Or in order for you to truly come to a resolution with that of anybody in your family or friends that you had an issue with, it's true love that you want to bring this issue, to an end. Yeah. So the answer is, if somebody asks you that question, what I also recommend to everybody, I do this with everyone, all right? Soon after, or one of the things I discuss in that of Ho'oponopono, when all Pohakus has been discussed, is I say to them, now go home, call your mom and dad, who you haven't talked to for 5 years, and tell them, Mom, I love you. And if mom tells you, Kara, are you going crazy? Or are you drinking, Kara? All you have to say is, no, Mom. I just learned from a very handsome Hawaiian man of this subject called Ho'oponopono. And the most important thing I learned is I love you. Yeah, I know, but I usually tell them that, tell them that you learned it from a most handsome Hawaiian man, what is called Ho'oponopono. And in Ho'oponopono, the first thing I learned was, I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad. I love you, sister. I love you, brother. That's one of the first things I recommend to everybody to do. Yeah. And then what usually happens, right? I'm receiving letters or emails that saying, that was one of the biggest change in my life, to tell my parents I love you, or tell my sibling I love you. Be the initiator is what I'm saying, everybody. Don't wait for them to tell you they love you. You tell them I love you. Yeah. And see what happens is what I'm saying. Yeah. So just some thoughts to be shared. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
And on another note, I gotta go, everybody. It's bloody 11 o'clock at night. I have a room tomorrow morning at 11:30. And I don't even know what the heck I'm gonna talk about. So good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Cool. Aloha. Okay, and you know what? We're actually meant to wrap this up now too. But I wanted to just offer one more opportunity. Does anybody have any question or contribution that they'd like to make?
I have a quick question, please. If I
Sure.
may. So since we spoke about, becoming a Luna Ho'oponopono and becoming a conductor, my question is, traditionally, how was the initiation process and how long did it take someone to be qualified to conduct?
Traditionally.
Yeah, in the old.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? It took sometimes a decade, sometimes two. And I'm not just talking about Ho'oponopono. I'm talking about the full scope, yeah, of traditional healing. Yeah. Ancient healing. Roughly around a decade. Yeah. Now, Ho'oponopono, this was something that was done in an older time. This was something that was done in the family regularly. So everyone knew or grew up around it, in it, right, as a functioning component of their family. So when they reached a certain level or a status or an authority within the family, then they would be able to call for and or coordinate, construct Ho'oponopono sessions, right? As the need arose. So that's the other component, and more specifically to Ho'oponopono. How long did it take me? It took me in full scope, yeah, not no more questions, no more if, ands, or buts. The fire was lit, and I told Lawrence I'm gonna do it. From the moment that he started training me, roughly 5 years. Yeah.
And that's 5 years fully on every day.
No, that's 5 years in it. Yeah, it being around, me being present in every Ho'oponopono session that would come along our way, and sitting quietly, observing, listening, watching him do it. Yep. 3, maybe about a year of observing, and another year of like him observing me, meaning he was present with me in my sessions of Ho'oponopono. I would conduct it, but he would be there to assure what I was doing. Yeah. And yeah, well, let's see, it was Zurich. It was we were in Switzerland. That was the second year, so like 2011. Yeah, actually probably 4 years for me. Yep. But hey, there's 2 things to be shared about that too. One, I did my learning in the oral traditional way. Yeah. The way that we share and we teach Ho'oponopono today, yeah, it's very much on a fast track. Yeah. You get the recordings, right? You get the engagement, take your notes, you get to, you know what I mean? Like, and you get to go over those and repeat those, and so it's just a totally different thing. Yeah. For the same reason that you asked, Gasper, it's like we weren't doing Ho'oponoponos every single day. Right? But we were doing everything else. Yeah. That is the background and the foundation, right, of what Ho'oponopono is. Right. So if we for a moment step away from speaking about it in the context of learning how to do Ho'oponopono, how about learning how to love unconditionally all the time? Yeah. How about we talk about living in pono, in alignment, all the time? Okay. And making that the foundation from which you move from and from which you accelerate and do things in your life that you're passionate and you're, that you love doing. Yeah. So
Super juicy. Thank you.
super, yeah. Isn't that juicy? Thank you. Let me see you. Turn your video on. What the hell, man? Talking to a black screen. Yes. Right on. Thanks for asking, man. Thanks for asking. So
Yeah. Needed to hear that. Thank you.
yeah. Okay. So, and you know what? As soon as we learn how to do it, as soon as we learn how to do it, we should be doing it. Again, Lawrence was talking about that ego thing. Yeah, that ego thing before he stepped out. Yeah, the whole when I'm ready thing doesn't really work in the thinking of our ancestors, right? It's actually, like, here it is, learn it, now do it, because we're going to be sending people your way. Yeah, whether you see it or not, we're going to be sending people your way. Yeah, to do it. So, and none of what our ancestors or our guardians or the higher power or powers has anything to do with us and what we are ready for or not ready for. Get there, you know what I mean? So, aloha you. Any last minute ones? Any last little minutes? Okay, Christine, yep.
Mahalo. So I've got a question actually to the topic of true forgiveness. And so I've been thinking, as we grow, we move through levels, right? Of understanding in general, but especially of also understanding ourselves. So if we forget, like if in our cases, Western cases, who, like say, take me as an example. So I have had many pohaku for a long time in my life. And then I met you guys and I worked on getting rid of them. But I moved through the levels, right, on many layers. Still not at the end, but the pohaku I had, when I did Ho'oponopono at the beginning, I didn't have the understanding. And is it possible that there were inner twinkles that I could not catch at the level I was at, and then later on I got the inner twinkles. Do you know where I'm getting at? So my question in the end is, if I forgive at a lower level at the beginning, like when I started and I do a Ho'oponopono session and I know about a subject, but I don't get the depth of what it is. I do the Ho'oponopono session and it's forgiven, and then is it true? Do you know what I mean? Can you in any way understand where I'm getting at?
I'm listening.
I find it very difficult to explain, but that's maybe because the question is nonsense, really. It's just, I know in my story I've had Pohaku that I wasn't aware of for the biggest part of my journey, and many of it's all the end of twinklings, right? So if I've got a Pohaku, there are many more stones grow out of it, and I might work on the smaller stones, which are more on the surface and for me to catch, but I don't get the big one, simply because I'm not ready to deal with it. Is it still true forgiveness? Do you know what I mean? Are you getting where
Yes.
You're not getting...
I am getting it. I'm listening. Are you done?
Yes.
Right. So do you want to formulate an actual question?
Well, the question is if it's still true forgiveness if I forgive, but there are other levels that I don't catch at that level and at the level I'm at. So is it still true forgiveness if I forgive?
Yes. Yeah. Because we can only operate from the level at which we are at. Does everyone understand me there? All of us are at different levels all the time. So the forgiveness that you achieve on the level that you happen to be on at any given moment in time, whenever that Ho'oponopono or whenever that work, take it out of Ho'oponopono for a moment. Yeah. Whatever level of forgiveness, whatever forgiveness you achieve at whatever level that you are at in your life. Yeah. That's the true forgiveness that you attain. Yeah. And more importantly, you drop it all the way down. Yeah. We have to feel it. No matter what level we're at any moment in time. And knowing that we're going to be at another level at another moment in time. You have to feel forgiveness. The forgiveness has to come from in you, wherever you're at, and whatever level you're capable of understanding or knowing.
Yeah, I was also thinking in terms of, the 3 cycles that you said, forgetting and remembering. And I think I was stuck on that. If I didn't let go anything, I can't really remember what it felt like before. And since, I needed to get, I needed to go down all the levels until I really can forgive. So, and then I remember only then. So I was wondering. That's the circumstances why I'm asking this question today,
Yeah.
Because that came up.
Yep. And that's That's the contribution that I have for your ask. It was a fantastic ask. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
And we have to get all the way to it. Yeah. And forgiveness has to be felt. Yeah. Mahalo. Mahalo. Any other questions or contributions? Yes, Rachel.
Hello. I just wanted to follow on with what Christine was asking, and I think it might have been mentioned before, but I was a little unclear about it. And Christine was mentioning like layers of Pohakas, and I'm just wondering how do you know you're ready to do Ho'oponopono? Like, I sort of feel like I have to just throw out all my Pohakas all at once, and like as Christine mentioned before, there might be ones that you don't really understand are even there because you've put so many layers of protection over them, or you've kind of protected yourself from like memories and things. So do we have to get rid of all the Pohakas at once, like just, or can we just kind of like do it layer by layer? I don't know, I guess, do you understand my question, or is it a bit
Yeah, I
odd?
understand your question.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Okay, so, and here's a direct answer. All the stones got to go no matter what. Yep. All the stones have to go on whatever level that you know or that you don't know. Yeah. And this is another reason why we do Ho'oponopono with a Luna Ho'oponopono. Yeah. Because you get to it. And look, and the other directness of it all is it's not pono if you have any kind of pohaku in there. Yeah. So, and then another way I'm inspired to answer it is, well, why wouldn't you want to get rid of all of them? Like, is there like a special set of pohakus that you really want to hold on to? Is there a really special set of anger and hatred that you just want to preserve for a little bit longer, cherish a little bit more? So all of it's got to go. Yeah, all of it's got to go. Great question. Oh, I love that one. That's so good. Yeah. And look, this is why we do Ho'oponopono. Yeah, with somebody there. Yeah. With somebody there to witness it, to see it, to confirm it. Yeah. These are all extremely significant components to achieving true forgiveness. Yeah. Those three components right there, yeah, witnessing, yeah, confirming, being physically present. Yeah. Those three components are extremely significant in an individual being able to reach true forgiveness. It's those three components right there. And I'll just remind everyone that traditional Ho'oponopono was executed, it was conducted, it was coordinated by somebody. Yeah, a Luna Ho'oponopono. So with those 3 points and the Luna Ho'oponopono present, That's what makes the difference between traditional Ho'oponopono as a process and the 4-phrase mantra or prayer. This is really, okay. Oh man, you got me into it now. Okay. But this is really why, you know, and Lawrence mentioned it at the beginning of Kukakuka. Yeah, somewhere at the beginning. Yeah. We have many people that come to us that practice the prayer or that practice the mantra, that speak the 4 phrases. They speak the 4 phrases every time somebody pisses them off on the freeway. But they come to us, and they're like, you know, I've been utilizing this Ho'oponopono prayer, love Ho'oponopono, it's so awesome, been using the 4 phrases, but I still feel like there's something I've yet to truly forgive. You know, and I don't know why, I'm not sure why that's so. I tell my mom, I visualize my mom and I say the 4 phrases out loud, sometimes in my head, but I say it to the vision of my mom. But I always, you know, it could be like an hour later, I still feel this hurt towards my mom. You know. Well, that's why. That's those components that I've shared with you is what different, on top of everything else that we've been sharing, are some of the biggest differences of traditional Ho'oponopono forgiveness healing process of our ancestors and this other modern or new forms of forgiveness work. To bear witness to someone. Yeah. To watch them, to look at them, to hear them, to see them, to smell them, yeah, to feel them. Forgive. Many a times in Ho'oponopono, in the process that we do, many a times that is just enough. That serves as a confirmation that it's not just something that they did in their head. Yeah. That's one of the big reasons why it was done, yeah, as a family with the Luna Ho'oponopono. Confirmation, yeah, good. You said everything you needed to say. You brought up everything that needed to be brought up. This is what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. Good. Do you forgive it? Take as long as you need. But there's only one answer to it. Good. You forgive it? Good. It's gone. Yeah. Witnessed, observed, confirmed. And not just by the Luna Ho'oponopono now, but by your ancestors, by your guardians, and by the higher power and powers that we've invited to be in this session with us, that you believe in. Yeah. Good stuff. Oh, thank you, Rachel. Awesome.
Woo, love it.
Awesome. All right. Any more questions? Anyway, I got to stop asking this. But any more questions? Any more contributions? Might as well.
Yes.
Come on, then.
Since you asked, I feel inspired to talk about how we've accumulated so much, and we come to a place now where we're presented with the opportunity to do Ho'oponopono, but it doesn't take into consideration the future, which is going to be different from the past because you're now functioning from this lighter space that opens your perspective, and that, you know, still allows you to it's not like you will be omitted from gathering stones the rest of your life. So it's a maintaining the Pono, as opposed to an absolutist, like I've dropped all my stones, I've emptied my bowl, and now I'm free and clear for the rest of my life.
Awesome, Jasper. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and look, how we say that, yeah, how we share what you just shared is, you know, you go into your Ho'oponopono, yeah. Rachel, you bring all your stones that you know and you don't know. Yeah. You get rid of all of them. You get rid of all of them in one go. Yeah. So when you step out of Ho'oponopono and you move into your future and your bowl is squeaky clean and bright and shiny and empty, you can pick up new stones.
It's kind of like doing half the dishes. Like, do you half the dishes, or is it just better to do all the dishes? And then tomorrow the dishes come back and we need to redo the dishes.
Exactly.
Just for some fun.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing with that one. One. Yeah. The new stones that you pick up have nothing to do with the old stones that you got rid of. Yeah. Yeah. So there's no more of this, what we find today. Gosh, wow, so many great layers coming through today. Whoa, this is fun. Okay, so older time, no more of this conversation that we have of, oh, of stringing all of the anger through. Yeah. Today you see a lot of combining stones. Yeah. Today, what you see a lot of, yeah, is you're angry today for this because you are angry at 5 for that. Yeah. So now they're today they're connecting stones. They're tagging them to each other. That kind of stuff wasn't happening in the ancient time. That kind of stuff wasn't happening in the time of tradition that we're talking about. Yeah. or they're doing that one, or they're also doing, yeah, they're also doing the anger that they're doing this one too. The fear that you experience walking down a dark alleyway is because you're angry with your dad. Right? That wasn't happening. So let me get back to the share of that one, that great contribution and ask, Jasper. Yeah. When we do Ho'oponopono and we free and clear those pohakus are gone. So if you move into your future and you get angry, yeah, it has nothing to do with what you've forgiven and let go of in Ho'oponopono or of your past. It's a brand new bright and shiny pohaku. Or dull and rough pohaku, whatever you want to call it. Whatever, you know. So there's that.
If there's a doubt that that is a new Bahaku and that you might have thought that that was actually from the past, does that suggest that that's still living within them, the old Bahaku?
Great question. And that goes back to the discipline that you mentioned. Yeah. Yeah. So there's, upon the completion of Ho'oponopono, right? Now there's a discipline in maintaining that alignment. Now there's a discipline in maintaining the fullness and the brightness of your light. Yeah. And this is a discipline. So Ho'oponopono was done as regularly and as often as it was required. And in some families, it was done daily. Yeah. As a form of discipline. And to round this one all the way out, yeah, we learn and we grow in the discipline of Ho'oponopono to reach a place where we no longer need it. Yeah. So you're firm, you're solid, you're unshakable. Your relationship with your ancestors is free and clear and vivid and intimate and deep. So too your relationship with your guardians and the higher power that you believe in. Yeah. You're honed, yeah, through the discipline, you're honed and you're sharpened. You're disciplined and you can see clearly. Oh, this has the potential. Yeah, this relationship, this circumstance has the potential for me to pick up a stone. So you are capable of changing your engagement. You're capable of changing your response. You're capable of changing your presence. Yeah.
And then you should go conduct Ho'oponopono for other people.
If your ancestors tell you to. Mahalo. Good stuff. Questions, contributions? Good. Great. Mahalo. Okay, we're bringing this to a close. 7:40. All right, we're gonna see each other next week. Kukakuka TalkStory. I don't know what the theme is. You'll find out when I know. And mahalo. Mahalo for being here. Yeah. And mahalo to all of you for being here 40 minutes over the allotted time too. So that's good.
Mahalo.
Mahalo, Kara. Mahalo, Lana. Mahalo, Patricia, Donna, Marika, Christine, Michelle, Rachel, Catherine. Ahui ho. Be on the
Hui ho.
Hui ho. 3, 2, 1.